Southeast Africa is the scene of our first report today on CNN 10. I'm Carl Azus. Thank you for watching the show. First, there was severe flooding. The nations of Malawi and Mozambique saw 1.5 million people affected by heavy rains. Then, a week later on March 14th, Cyclone Idai made landfall in coastal Mozambique and ripped its way inland through Malawi and Zimbabwe. The destruction was so extensive that some areas were cut off, and we're just getting details about it now. In the central Mozambican city of Beira, the International Federation of Red Cross called the damage massive and horrifying. It says it looks like 90% of the area has been completely destroyed. Roads and communication lines are cut, and rescuers can't even get to some places. Bridges were swept away in parts of Zimbabwe, and across the region, officials don't know yet how many lives were lost. The ICRC says more than 150 people are thought to have been killed in Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe, but it says that number could go up as rescue teams make their way through. The president of Mozambique says with rivers having broken their banks and entire villages having been wiped out, Cyclone Idai could have killed more than 1,000 people in his country alone. He called the situation a large-scale humanitarian disaster. 10-second trivia. A company's specific symbol, word, or logo can be legally protected by a what? Copyright, trademark, patent, or brand. When it comes to intellectual property, it's a registered trademark that protects a logo or business name. Intellectual property includes anything original that comes from the creative mind. Songs, movies, artwork, clothing brands. Protecting intellectual property, keeping another person or business from copying the original work and then making money off it, has challenged governments and lawyers for centuries. For example, what's happening right now with the brand Supreme? In 2018, fashion platform List called Supreme's simple logo the most powerful one in the fashion industry. So you can see why someone else might want to take advantage.
I'd like to begin.
In December of 2018, Samsung executives were on stage in Beijing to unveil their latest smartphone and also to announce a partnership with one of the world's hottest and most exclusive fashion brands.
Supreme.
But here's the thing. These men aren't executives of the original iconic Supreme brand. This parka isn't from that Supreme. And most importantly, the US-based Supreme had absolutely no intention of collaborating with the tech giant. Turns out, this Supreme is part of a network of companies imitating the original brand in countries all over the world. And what might be even stranger, everything they were doing is seemingly legal.
Essentially, Supreme started as a skate store on Lafayette Street in New York City in 1994. It's of course much more than a skate brand. It's a brand that, unlike many others, has managed to resonate with culture. They've become, a pop cultural icon in many ways.
What started out as simple white t-shirts and skateboard decks has grown to include Supreme jackets, backpacks, teddy bears, dog bowls, Christmas ornaments, Band-Aids, chopsticks, New York City subway cards, cough drops, fire extinguishers, crowbars, and Hot Wheels. There were even Supreme bricks. There's been collaborations with North Face, Nike, the New York Yankees, White Castle, Campbell's, and even Louis Vuitton, among others. And when they're released, Supreme's products nearly always sell out, sometimes within seconds. Today, Supreme is valued at around $1 billion. Its business model is a classic example of artificial scarcity.
Wearing Supreme or buying Supreme is ultimately really about showing that you're in the know. The sheer fact that it is so hard to get it, of course, adds immense value.
2 decades after opening its first store in New York City, Supreme had become a truly global brand and was launching a new collection in Italy. Only Supreme wasn't launching this new collection. Another company was.
At the first stage, counterfeits and knockoffs are, of course, a sign of success. And then I guess, it becomes a slippery slope, how big that knockoff market becomes.
In November of 2015, a British limited company named International Brand Firm was founded by a Michele Di Piero, who started registering and licensing the Supreme trademark in Europe. After success in Italy, Supreme Italia was born. The clothing looks like Supreme styles, but with larger logos, often cheaper prices, and is in seemingly abundant supply.
You know, they see a Supreme logo hoodie on somebody on Instagram and that's what they want. You know, they don't care what's the story behind this brand, where does it come from, is it real, is it not? And suddenly the shop close to where they live actually carries that product.
It took until 2017 for an Italian court to rule that the original brand had, in fact, filed for a trademark in Italy before IBF. After that decision, authorities seized IBF-related merchandise. But the original brand hadn't registered in Spain, and IBF wasted no time creating Supreme Spain and opening multiple brick-and-mortar stores. It also successfully registered the trademark under the World Intellectual Property Organization, which is how it's gained protection in the Chinese market. In all, IBF claims it's registered the Supreme brand in a whopping 54 countries. So how is IBF getting away with this? It's what trademark lawyers call a legal fake.
In the United States, parties have to be the first to use a specific trademark, such as Supreme, on a specific type of goods or services, such as clothing. That's called a first-to-use system. In Italy or Spain or San Marino, it's a first-to-file trademark system, meaning that the first party to file a trademark application, regardless of whether or not they're using it, are the ones that are awarded rights.
Since the Italian court's earlier decision, tides have turned in IBF's favor. The EU has initially refused to let the US-based Supreme register its trademark logo in Europe because it said the word Supreme was descriptive and lacking in distinctiveness, though this review process is still ongoing. And when Supreme New York sued IBF in Spain, IBF won in 2018.
This really is a quiet fight for the rights of a brand that is now more or less under siege in countries where it didn't act quick enough.
Our claim is that Supreme, by Chapter 4, wasn't a trademark in Italy, is not a trademark in Italy. And this is the reason why we cannot really say, in our opinion, that there is a copy here.
The items are totally different, and the design of the items is totally different.
But the original company calls Supreme Italia a counterfeit.
When we're looking at a heavily counterfeited brand, some of the loss, it's intangible. It serves to chip away at the uniqueness or the appeal or the reputation of the brand. While it was once okay to just police the market where you were immediately operating, nowadays, because of the truly global nature of digital media and e-commerce, it's just a much more complex issue than it ever was in the past.
It's unclear whether Samsung knew it was dealing with a so-called legal fake all along, but the partnership with Supreme Italia was officially canceled in February of 2019. Regardless, IBF licensed websites are live and stores continue to operate in several countries. The battlefield for brands in today's global economy is just that, global. And if the rules don't change, the quickest copycats might come out on top.
It's one thing to love video games. It's another to set a Guinness World Record for having the planet's biggest collection of them. Antonio Romero Montero has been collecting games for years. He owns games from his childhood, from overseas, some rare games, some he hasn't played, some he hasn't opened. He has so many games that it took 2 Guinness employees a week to count them all. The tally, 20,139. The cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Maybe you think he's a legend like Zelda to have all that Metal Gear simming around his house. If his Final Fantasy or Call of Duty was to have a world of software craft creating a mass effect, his golden eye for collecting his one Guinness Mario-over, even if it's gotta have taken him longer than a fortnight to build such a super galaxy of titles. It's no BioShock, that dude's got game, y'all. I'm Carl Azus for CNN.